Good evening, council members, and good evening to our staff members here tonight. And thank you for your company. And also our special guest tonight, Jonathan Lobren from which we're looking forward to hearing a presentation about Operation Flinders. Jonathan, it's lovely to see you again. We'll begin this evening by the acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge that the Ngadjuri and the Kaurna people, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. I don't have any apologies at this point, no leave of absence and no non-attendance. We move to the confirmation of our minutes, and the first one is a recommendation that the minutes of the meeting of the ordinary council meeting held Tuesday the 28th of March 2023 be confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting. Would someone like to move that motion? Thanks, Councillor Fabio. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Michael. Any discussion, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. We move on now to the confirmation of the council meetings of the special council meeting held Tuesday, the 11th of April 2023. There's a recommendation there. Would someone like to move that way, that they are a true and correct record of that meeting? Councillor Lind. Someone like to second? Councillor Fabio. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thank you. And once again, the confirmation of council minutes. Gee, we're a busy council. The special meeting held Wednesday, the 12th of April 2023. Recommendation there that these be confirmed as a true and correct record. Thanks, Councillor Fabio and Councillor Michael. All those in favour, those against, and that's carried. We move on to our communications, and first one is the Mayor. I've had a very busy period, but a very active one as well in terms of getting out amongst the community and getting amongst the media also, which has been hopefully to our council's benefit. Yesterday, of course, being Anzac Day, I had the good fortune of attending the Freeling service on behalf of Council Langer Reef and also at Wasleys. I've got to say both ceremonies were particularly good. Wasleys have come a long way with their memorial service, very well executed. 3 squadron leaders there live in Wasleys, 3 of them, and I knew what squadron leaders were like in the Air Force, so they were to be avoided. But that they were excellent, and the whole presentation down there, that service was very well put together. They've come a long way in a very short time, and I thank Councillor Allison and Councillor Michael for supporting that as well yesterday. I think they would agree with me. It was excellent. There's a new memorial that they have unveiled yesterday as well by a local sculptor or artist, and it's just totally out of this world. It's brilliant, and it will be there for a long, long time. Dutton Park opening, that was something that our council, of course, have supported very much, as the extensions to Dutton Park, and we've always had a great respect for the Dutton Park Committee, and not to be let down on this occasion either. The media were there, a couple of pollies turned up, and a very good crowd as well. The facilities there are just first class, and it's come a long way from the old days of the shed and the coot ground in the wrong place and everything else. It's a real credit to the management committee at Dutton Park, and they're in good hands. There's no doubt about that. And we got good publicity through the leader and the Bunyip, I might add too. Both were there. We move on now to the Gawler History Festival, and thank you, Richard, for being there that night with me. We went down to Gawler for their opening of their Heritage Festival and the launch of their little brochure. We had some good discussions. A friend of mine, Greg Mackey, who's chair of the History Trust in South Australia, was there. We were able to have a good chat to Greg. Looking at aligning Gawler up with Kapunda in particular, coming up through our Drovers Way and joining that heritage together. There's no reason why that can't happen. They've got a wonderful heritage of the state, built heritage as well as in Gawler, as do we here in Kapunda. And to see us come together as two councils working together, I'm sure we'll get great support from government agencies and the Tourism Commission. So that was a positive sort of outcome from that. Just need a pen. I've got to cross out what I've done, councillors. The Barossa Film Club, something that's very different. This was an event that I went over for, their launch of their new competition, which involves young people and a short film competition. You say, why were you there? They cover both our council area and Gawler, and this competition was quite heavily promoted and well organised and well supported. Ashton Hearn was there, the member for Schubert, and the media were there also. So it was good publicity for our council to getting once again behind young people in our community and getting involved in these sorts of things, which are a little bit outside the square. But I would commend the Barossa Film Club as something that's worth a visit. That they have film nights in the church on the corner of Bazadow Road and the main road there. That's where they find the acoustics and the facilities work for them, and they have many film nights there that are open to the public. So I would recommend that one. The Central Districts Footy Club always get an invite from Mayor Glenn Doherty to go down there to the President's function. Always great to sort of be part of that. And this year again, Jonathan might have some sort of affection to this. They're playing North Adelaide, and North got a thumping, by the way. But it's great, and it's good to see councils working together, and it's quite an honour to be sitting in that room with the likes of Johnny Platten and people like that. And you know, it's good to see so many of those young people out there playing footy these days, and they look like children, but they're not. They're big children, and they're playing a mighty game. So I've totally enjoyed that. The LGA Local Government Association had their reception and their ordinary general meeting. I attended that along with Richard. That was an excellent occasion. Gave us a great opportunity once again to network with other councils who are all represented there, and to see what's going on in other parts of our state. The Northern and York Landscape Board as an item on our agenda tonight in relation to the Northern and York Landscape Board, but we did have the opportunity to attend the forum that they conducted at the Winetail Hotel in Tanunda. And I've got to say it was an excellent function. Gave us a great opportunity to talk to a few people that day as well, including Michael Higginbotham, who was one of the guest speakers. And probably last but not least, the prefect's induction at the Kapunda High School. You know, I just keep saying this probably week after week or month after month at the council, but that school is just outstanding in what they're doing and how they're going about their business. And that includes restoring that beautiful Aringa. They're well on the way to getting, you know, works commenced on that, the actual building structure of it, as opposed to just the cleanup and whatever. And to see what they're doing there and to see the behaviour and the whole attitude of those students in what they do makes you feel very proud. And we're very fortunate to have a fine school and a great principal as well. He's calm and the kids love him. So they're in good hands. So that's probably enough from me. Are there any other council members who would like to raise any matters? Councillor Lynn?
I attended the Freeling Bowling Club 100th anniversary on Saturday night. There was bowlers present who were Australian champions, world champions that live in Sydney. They had the ladies world champions speak. It was a very, very well put together evening. I also attended the landscape board presentation, and that was very interesting. And the mayor and I learnt a lot, didn't we?
You did.
Yeah. So that's all from me.
Thank you, councillor. Any further? Councillor Fabio.
Yep, so not as many events as yourself, Bill, but I attended the Dutton Park opening as well. I echo your sentiments. It's a fantastic facility that they've got there, and one that's not only targeted at football and cricket, but for the broader community. For a long time, Kapunda has been wanting a gymnasium facility in the town, and they've offered one there with basically a swipe card pass. Once you sign up with your membership or whatever, with really reasonable opening hours, and I believe the cost is quite reasonable as well. So, fantastic facility and for the community. I was also invited to attend a garden party with Member of Parliament, I should say, Penny Pratt, at her home in Clare, which I attended with my family. There wasn't a lot of political speak going on, but it was certainly a good opportunity to catch up with a lot of prominent people in the district. Likes of the Schusters were there, and also the Hornsies, as well as others from farther afield, as far up as Jamestown. As you can appreciate, Penny Pratt's area of Frome is quite large, and she did mention that day that she would be looking at relocating her office to Clare. And that Clare is more geographically central for Frome, and so it makes a lot of sense for her to be in that region. Also attended Anzac Day yesterday, and I thank you to Dean for bestowing the honour upon me to represent Light Regional Council at Kapunda to lay the wreath. It was a great turnout, a lot of people there. From all different ages, young, old, all sorts, and not only that, but also the contingency of past and present service personnel, along with many of the support groups around the area, like the SAS, St John's Ambulance, CFS, MFS, K9 capabilities, and then obviously the schools and other groups in the region. Ironically, on my social media, a post popped up that I'd posted 7 years ago when I first moved into town, asking where the Anzac Day service was to be held. That was obviously the first one I attended, and I would never have imagined in what I considered to be a short period of time that I would actually be there representing Light Regional Council, which is it's a big thing for me. So yeah, thank you very much. And last but not least, I guess more of a plug than anything else. We voted a few meetings ago on giving funding or supporting the No Quiet events. Just a reminder that No Quiet is on this Friday. So yeah, hope to see some of you guys out there. That's it.
Thank you so much, Councillor Fabio. One matter I forgot to raise too, and I do remember meeting you 7 years ago at that RSL Anzac Day presentation. I remember that very well. You had a little cap on. Saturday night, I had the honour again of presenting some of the awards to the Barossa Young Ambassadors program at Semplesfield. And that was their gala ball that night and so forth. I didn't stay for the ball, but I certainly stayed for the presentations along with Ashton Hearn and the Deputy Mayor of Barossa, Dave DeBreeze. These young people are just outstanding. They're incredible. And there's a front page article today in the local newspaper that goes through some of the background of some of these young people that get involved with this program. And those 2 or 3 of them live in our council area as well. But it's just jaw-dropping when you hear what they've been up to and what they've been doing and what they've achieved. The last ambassador, for example, she had the idea, her project was to create a park that people with disabilities and so forth could be able to access, and there'd be equipment there for all that to happen. You know, one of those dreamy type projects that young people are pretty good at. But she made it happen. And now that they have this park, and she was able to pass that experience on to these other young people who, once again this year, wonder what the project from the person who's principal ambassador will come up with, because she gets the opportunity to do that. So we can keep our eyes and ears open for what's going to happen next time. But it's an incredible program and good on them. And I was a bit dubious about that initially, but not anymore. I think it's really outstanding and good on them. And a huge crowd there too, in numbers. We're up to now, pardon me?
Mr. Mayor, just one comment. You may, members may remember the saga of the Gawler River Church. It's just been released that a local landholder has bought it, and he is agreeable to letting the community run the cemetery, which is what we've all wanted. And so that's progressing with that. So hopefully the planning gets allowed through swiftly when it comes up. One thing that was brought up at the meeting was the pleasure in the fact that the Gawler River and Wilson Road have been fully sealed now, and the community is really thankful. And the other thing was there's been a fair bit of resheeting done down our way using the new material, and from up on the western side of the district, and just saying how great it was, how the resheeting on those roads was really top notch. So that was a pretty positive comment, and thanks go to all the infrastructure team who put that together.
Yeah, thanks very much, Bill. Michael, Councillor Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bill. So yeah, just noting, thankful for the invitation to the Wasleys Anzac Day parade. So I agree that it was, or the service, sorry, it was very well put together. And just acknowledging correspondence I've received from the Wasleys community group that I've passed on to council, just in relation to some welcome signs. So I'll work with them on that.
That was the brochure that they put out. Thanks very much, Councillor Michael. It was nice to have you there as well. Anything further, councillors? If not, we'll move on. We have no requested documents to be tabled, and we have no petitions, but we do have a presentation. I'm so looking forward to this, and introducing Jonathan Robran, who is representing, pardon me, Operation Flinders, a project that this council has been involved with for many years, and has done some amazing work for many disadvantaged and on the edge students and young people in our region. Last year, you might be aware that Councillor Mark Frankham went along for the week or more with these students, and I caught up with Mark yesterday at Freeling, and he said it was probably the best experience in his life, and he's had a few, and for him to say that, it must have meant something to him that he's not going to forget for a long time. So look forward to your presentation, Jonathan, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me, Mayor O'Brien, and thank you to the members for the opportunity to come along and present about Operation Flinders, which I know there'll be some members here who are familiar with our program and the impact and the relationship we've had here in the Mike community for a number of years. But for the new elected members, happy to spend a few minutes about our program, but also an update of some follow-up programs that we do with after the young people complete Operation Flinders, and a pretty amazing success story that I'll conclude with as well from a local student here in Kapunda. But if we could just perhaps show the first video on the slideshow, that'd be fantastic, just to put in perspective the content of the presentation. Thank you. there is a little bit of commentary to go with the footage there, but at least that gives you a bit of a perspective of the program and where we run it and the challenges that the young people encounter when they're on our program. And we'll see if we can get the next one working in a few moments as well, which is only a very short video. But perhaps for the new members and councillors, Operation Flinders, if you're not familiar with it, we're an organisation that's been running our program for over 30 years, since 1991. Our founder, Pam Murray-White, we had a vision for supporting young people and working with young people from in a school environment, but also in an outdoor environment, had a passion for supporting kids who were perhaps marginalised, perhaps disadvantaged, but were perhaps heading down the wrong path in life. And Pam, through her absolute passion and vision and dedication to the program, set up Operation Flinders back in 1991. And during that time, over 9,500 young people from schools, literally all around the state, including many, many young people from here in Kapunda, have participated in our program. And essentially it's working with the young people who might have challenges in their life at home, in their school, perhaps might have challenges in their community, their risk of disengagement, their risk of drug and alcohol abuse, perhaps. Some have been victims of abuse, trauma, lacking motivation, lacking direction, a wide profile and background of kids. But the program essentially takes the young people out of this environment and gives them an opportunity over an 8-day period to experience a different environment in the Flinders Ranges, but to perhaps look at life, look at where they're heading, make some different choices, and come away with some newfound skills, confidence and leadership and resilience, and feel a lot more empowered that they can be really positive contributors to the community, and maybe where they're heading wasn't the best path for them, and they can achieve a lot more than perhaps they initially realised through the completion of the program as well over the 8 days. And whilst we're not a boot camp, you do see some people out there walking in the army fatigues, if you like. We're not a boot camp. It's a program that builds up the confidence and gives the kids as many positive experiences as possible when they're out there over 8 days. And over the course of 30 years, as I said, over 9,500 young people have participated. And by the end of our programs that we'll be completing this year, we'll have 10,000 young people participating over the course of that, the history of the organisation, which is a pretty significant number. The program itself is based around an 8-day exercise in the Flinders Ranges, and the teams walk around 80 to 90 kilometres over 8 days. And when I say the teams, a team of 10 young people are referred from a local school, from a youth agency, from schools all around the state, Roxby Downs in the north to Mount Gambier in the south, and the Waikerie in the Riverland, and Ceduna over on the west coast. A number of metropolitan schools and agencies, but also certainly here in Kapunda. The Kapunda High School have combined with the Newry High School over many, many years and combined to form a team of 10 students who then go up to the Flinders and undertake the activity over the 8 days. And you saw the abseiling activity, which is a bit of a challenge, but it's about overcoming fears, trusting adults, achieving your goals, building confidence that the young people think, perhaps I could never do that. And they have a go at the abseiling. That's one example of a positive experience and outcome for the young people. We also offer or provide an evening of Indigenous culture, and we acknowledge the traditional landowners at each location where we are, where we have presentations and so on. And we certainly acknowledge the Adnyamathanha community in the Northern Flinders Ranges, who provide an evening of Indigenous culture to the young people. And that's a really terrific element of the program, and learnings about caring, about sharing, respecting for ourselves and our elders and the environment as well. So over the course of the 8 days, there's the physical walking. They learn about bush survival skills, navigation, first aid, and all of these activities are designed to build confidence and empowerment, and learn about goal setting so the young people can take away a number of new personal skills that perhaps they didn't have as much of an understanding of before the program as well. Over the 8 days, the behaviours change dramatically sometimes, and others are it can be a really tough week, and others we see a period of storming initially for the first 1 or 2, 3 days, where it's challenging. They're out of their comfort zone. It's non-compliance. It's refusal to walk. It's rock throwing. It's swearing. Sometimes there's anger and violence, which happens occasionally. And then there's the norming phase, where the young people get used to walking and carrying the backpacks and the camp routines. And a lot of the time, by the end of the program, the 8 days, there's the performing phase where they're having a really positive experience. There's positive role models, there's routine and discipline and a safe, positive environment for the young people. And sometimes the young people don't even want to go home when they come to day 8 because they realise they have to go home to an environment that sometimes is pretty challenging for them. So the opportunity to learn and grow over an 8-day period, which we see more often than not, that's a generalisation of the behavioural patterns, but more often than not we see that. And what's critical to the program itself is some follow-up work that we do, which I'll mention just in a moment as well. Young people are aged between 14 and 18 years. Male is about 60%, female is about 40%. Young people with an Indigenous background are about 15% of the total number that will go through the program each year. So we'll run 5 programs this year. And over the course of each program, there'll be about 80 to 90 young people from schools all around the state. And so this year we'll have about 450 young people participating over the course of the five programs, including a team from Kapunda and Newry combined for this year. So it's a big operation. The logistics, the risk management, the planning, the volunteer support is incredible that goes on behind the scenes. We had a group of 15 volunteers in there at our warehouse today, and they're packing food boxes and they're cleaning buses and they're fixing trailers to make sure that everything is in readiness for our first program that gets underway in May this year. I mentioned follow-up. So we know the 8-day works. We've been clinically evaluated to achieve some really positive outcomes, but the follow-up work is, in my opinion, just as important as what happens over the 8 days. So if we can show the video, sometimes this video has actual captions on it. So if we can show the video, that would be great. It goes for about a minute as well. So the follow-up program is called our Next Step program. That's evolved, as has our main program in the Flinders. The Next Step program has evolved quite significantly over the last few years. And just to summarise fairly quickly, some of the opportunities that are available to the young people. You saw some footage of a weekend activity where the young people have the opportunity to participate in kayaking and some mountain biking and some more bushcraft skills. So we run one of those weekends per month. So we do or 10 per year, so roughly one a month. Part of that weekend also incorporated a certificate to an outdoor recreation that we also offer the young people. We can help facilitate the Duke of Edinburgh Award, which is another youth leadership program, which members may be familiar with. The Duke of Ed, we have some really good connections with that organisation as well, so we can facilitate that program. And ultimately, young people, if they want to, they can go back after doing a number of training activities. They can go back to the Flinders and do the 8-day walk all over again as a peer group mentor, as a mentor to support another team who's up there for the first time. So we have a number of young mentors, and there's some statistics about our follow-up program that I've provided to you as well there. But I just thought perhaps to conclude an update of one of the young people from Kapunda who went on Operation Flinders in 2021. Out of respect, I won't mention the young lady's name, but certainly she's very, very heavily involved in our follow-up programs over the last couple of years. So in 2021, she walked with the Kapunda High School Since then, she's attended 7 of our training activities and weekends. She completed her bronze Duke of Ed and is currently working towards her silver Duke of Ed award. She completed the Certificate 2 in outdoor recreation that we offer. She successfully walked as a peer group mentor with the Victor Harbour High School last year. So Victor Harbour went up there for their 10 students, and this young lady from Kapunda was a role model and a mentor for that particular team. She's helping other first-time peer group mentors with training this year, and she's going back and walking again on one of our programs this year. And this is some feedback just from her mum. I can't even begin to tell you what an amazing impact it has had on her. Truly life-changing. Thank you all so much. I think the final cream on the cake, if you like, was this young lady will be joining 7 other peer group mentors in August in walking the Kokoda track as a team from Operation Flinders, who with 7 other young mentors who have been nominated to walk the Kokoda track. So some fantastic opportunities for this young lady. And would she have had those opportunities without Operation Flinders? Probably not. But she's certainly embraced every opportunity that's been given to her. And through her initial involvement in the program has just taken step after step after step in her further development. So from council's perspective, that's an outcome of your support, your ongoing support that has to the young people. Yes, there is a funding request in for our program for this year. And I guess it's outcomes like that, this young lady, that hopefully helps council make a decision to perhaps see value in supporting Operation Flinders and the impact that it has on the young people. Thanks very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I might just ask if there are any members of council would like to ask a question. Councillor Fabio?
More of a comment rather than a question. I actually know the young girl, and from Kapunda, and I can honestly say everything you've said about her is fantastic. She's a very shy girl to start with, lacked a lot of confidence, a lot of self-doubt, and you know, through one thing and another, and there's a lot of circumstances around that sort of thing, but she's really grown, and to see her grow and develop into the person that she is just fantastic. So well done. Thank you very much for doing that, and not only for her, but for the thousands of other kids that you've helped. So you know, our kids are our future leaders, so you know, invest wisely.
Thank you.
Further questions, councillors? I think Jonathan might have answered most of them. That little piece at the end there put a tinkle up my spine, actually. It was just so incredible to hear those sorts of stories, and I'm sure there are many of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, the program itself is outcome orientated, obviously, and we've seen that over the years. I just can't believe the numbers. The numbers are quite extraordinary.
Yeah, even the last couple of years with COVID and all the challenges there, we still got through pretty well with our exercises, and we had over 2 years about a bit over 700, 350, and then 440 odd the second year of COVID, so or 340 odd, if my maths is correct. So around 700 over 2 years during the COVID period, which I reckon is still a pretty good outcome. So the numbers are growing.
Yeah, that's wonderful news, and thank you so much also for the fact sheets here too. That gives us a good recap on. Well, recap. It's the next step, isn't it? So
Sure. Yeah.
it gives us a bit of information to go on with as well.
Thank you.
But we do appreciate very much your presentation tonight, and our council will certainly be looking very closely at supporting this once again.
Thank you.
So thank you, and
Thank you, Mayor.
give our regards and our compliments to your team as well.
Will do. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks, Jonathan. Councillors, we will move on now to our next matter. We have no adjourned business. We move on to our action items, councillors. Beginning on page 6 of our council agenda. Anything on page 6 that anyone would like to raise? Page 7. Page 8. And page 9. I think it's been a very well prepared presentation with our action items, and most of them speak for themselves pretty much, but there could be questions. So we'll move on now to the recommendations from our committees. First one being the Infrastructure and Sustainability Committee meeting. And the recommendation at the top of the page is that the agenda reports and minutes of the meeting of the Light Regional Council Infrastructure and Sustainability Committee meeting held Tuesday, the 11th of April, 2023 be received. Would someone like to, thanks Councillor Peter. Someone like to second that? Councillor Lynn, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Councillors, there's a second recommendation there, or are there any questions regarding these two matters, the capital program updates and the strategic infrastructure funding plan? If not, a second recommendation is that the reports and recommendations of the meeting of the Light Regional Council Infrastructure and Sustainability Committee meeting held Tuesday, 11th of April, 23, numbered 1 to 4, as listed below, be adopted. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Fabio, Councillor Dean, any further questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, and that's carried. Thank you, councillors. I think the one thing that I'm finding, and I'm probably speaking for everybody here, I hope, that now that most of our councillors are on both committees, it's made life a lot simpler. Where in the past, when half the council weren't there to understand these matters, it was a lot more difficult. But this is certainly a better operation.
Mr. Mayor, just a query, if I may.
Yes, certainly.
There was a report in that in the minutes of the Infrastructure and Sustainability Committee about the junction of Jabiru and Kingfisher Drive. That was a great report, and we just want to make sure that there's some action taken on that report. This was not mentioned here at all. How does that happen?
Can anyone help me with that? Event, thank you.
Through the chair, yes, there is a recommendation to actually have a thick yellow line put on either side of Kingfisher Drive to stop people from parking on either side of the road. So the road is clear for traffic coming in from Jabiru. So once it's adopted, passed through council, we'll put that into action.
So my question is, do we have to pass anything, or is it's in the system?
Should just become an operational matter.
Yeah, so we'll put a traffic impact statement, which will be approved by Richard, and then we'll put that into action through the line marking team.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Thank you, Govind. Anything further, councillors? If not, we'll move on to the reports for information. 10.1, the council meeting catering arrangements. I think there's a resolution there that has been acted upon, and there's an outcome. Now, are there any questions in relation to this matter? If not, we'll move on to 10.2. Just give me here for a moment, councillors. I'm just trying to open this page here. It's fighting back. 10.2 is customers' requests versus fire light at light. Councillors had an opportunity to read this report, and if so, are there any questions? Councillor Michael.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. No, really just a excuse me, just a comment, just to thank the team for putting the report together. I think it's been useful. I think the number of inquiries in relation to libraries has been cleared up for me. It's not in relation to libraries. That was just the place that received the inquiry. But what I guess what did stand out to me was the proportion of community inquiries, relating to infrastructure, relating to rates, for example, and those two things resonated with me in receiving the report, but I've got no further questions arising from it. I think it'd be good to maybe see it once a quarter or once every so often, so we can keep track of it. But no, thank you for that.
That's a good point, and something I raised at the pre-council meeting too in relation to this, the CRMs that we put in, and we're encouraged to do that so that staff can act on what residents are asking us to do. Sometimes they're minor, sometimes they're more than that. But the downside is that once we put the CMR in, we don't get any feedback as to whether that's been, the task has been completed or not. I understand that that is being worked on now, and in the future, we'll have there'll be a course of action that comes back to the person who's put the request in for works or inspections or whatever, to come back to see where that's up to. Because it is a little bit of a weak spot in the system at this point, I've found. When I've had people ask me, how's my request going? I can't tell them. So staff are onto it, and I see that this is just one stage. The next stage will probably tidy that part up as well. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Collin?
Yeah, I haven't actually got a question. I just got a comment. I had an 84-year-old woman ring me the other day, and she made a complaint on a Monday about someone had come to her house, a council employee had come to her house. No, sorry, come on a Friday. She sent the email on the Friday, didn't get a reply. So then she actually came to the council chambers, presented a letter to the council, to staff, had no reply to the following Friday, which I then rang Richard and told him what had happened. But she was very frightened for the whole week because she, the person had snuck up and had not presented in the car, hadn't given a card, but it just seemed to me that a complaint like that, and then you read that it's, there's something not quite aligning there, I wouldn't think. But anyway, I just thought I'd make the council aware of that.
No, thank you for that. I think this is what we're trying to get at, that we do need that follow up. We need to know that it has been followed up and what the outcome of that was. And I think that's a reasonable request. That sounds pretty horrifying to think that lady would have. Yeah. And there's nothing deliberate in that either. It's just the system is just not giving us the information to enable us to feed that back to the person who's made the inquiry in the first place. I hope that answers that reasonably clearly, but we've got a little bit of work to do, that's obvious. Anything further, councillors?
Yes. I've had two similar ones to that in the last 3 weeks, but both of them had only sent their complaint to the infrastructure department, and they didn't know that they had to send it to Light at Light. And once they did that, it was addressed straight away.
Yeah.
So I don't know how else you're going to get through to people to actually know that that's who they have to go to.
That's a good point. I think June might be able to follow that through.
Through the chair, thank you.
Thanks, June.
I just wanted to sort of clarify a few things. I appreciate Councillor Michael's question in the first instance. We've had the new system in place for 3 months, so since the beginning of the year, and it did identify a review, as was requested, identified some of the gaps, and that we haven't got an automated response turned on in the system, which will be activated. And so it identified people weren't closing it out because they weren't sure of how to do it. So we've delivered training. So it has resulted in some improvements, and we'll continue to fix some of the gaps. So yeah, and you're right, Lynn, Councillor Lynette, once it goes to Light at Light, it's a more effective action, but it's a matter of advertising and promoting that to the community as well. So there are some gaps still to be addressed.
Yes, when these people send their requests to the infrastructure committee, it was just by chance that Jason told me that when it went through, it actually, somebody looked at an email of infrastructure committee, and that's how that one was addressed pretty quickly. That was fine, but how we inform people that that's what they've got to do, I don't know if you do it on.
Well, that's the difficulty I always see, that people don't know we've got an infrastructure committee or anything else. Generally speaking, the elected councillor often is a go-between between the person who's got the problem and the council, and that's how, you know, it
And that's
works.
how it's been fixed.
That's right. And I think by what June's saying, that now that there's going to be an outcome produced from this, it might answer a few of these questions. Because the system is breaking down at that level.
Through the chair, it just needs to be improved and we can improve the automated workplace. So it's not reliant on the customer so much as it's an improvement in the
Yeah.
system.
I mean, all of us around the room here, that's who we represent as the residents. And if they've got some, you know, a problem, they'll come to us and hopefully expect us to deal with it. And deal with it, we do, I think, to a person that, you know, people have got taken that responsibility very seriously. But we do need the tools to be able to get back to that person and say, this is what I've done and this is what you could expect. And that's not exactly happening now, but I'm refreshed to hear that that it's going to. So the system will get better. So thank you, June. And any further questions? If not, we'll move on to 10.3, the native vegetation in Kangaroo Flat Road Reserve between Torch Road and Horrocks Highway. Has everyone had a chance to have a read through this? Thank you, Simon, for your very comprehensive report also. The good news is, of course, and Simon was with me the day of the Northern and York Forum, where we spoke to Michael Higginbotham in relation to this stand of trees that, and he assured us that he would be doing his best to make sure that those trees aren't removed. So I've got a witness to the words that were spoken. Are there any questions, councillors? Not, we'll move on. Sorry, Councillor Simon.
I just would like to make a comment. I went through there recently with a botanist to have a look at the trees, and he said some of the trees are at least 300 years old, but it's no way of saying that they could be 600 or 700 years old. So these are quite substantial trees. These are the sort of trees that can be completely burned to the ground, but the same tree still happen and they come back up again. So that's why I'm saying these could be 700 years old trees. So it'd be really quite sad to lose them permanently. These trees been there for a long time. So, but council's doing everything they can. So I mean, totally, it's good to hear. But just wanted to throw that.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Simon. Anything further, councillors? If not, we move on to thank you very much, Councillor Lynn. I'm getting ahead of myself already. That the reports for information be received and the contents herein noted by council. Moved Councillor Lynn. Someone like to see that? Councillor Dean. Any further comments or questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. Councillor Dean and Councillor Ellison. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Reports for decision. The Northern and York Landscape Board levy equalisation. Thank you for this report also. It's something that's a little bit concerning, but it's being dealt with, I think, in the most appropriate way. Are there any questions, councillors? If not, there's a recommendation about halfway down page 20. Someone like to move that way, Councillor Peter?
Sorry, Mayor Bill, just before we do it, if I can. So
Certainly.
this, excuse me, this levy's to be contemplated as part of a levy to be imposed in the coming financial year. So what's the timescale, I suppose, for a resolution of the proposed actions set out under 2A to see before council's put in a position where under the existing regime it would need to impose that levy?
Do you have any other information?
Yeah, through the chair. I mean, those actions will be made immediately. When I say immediately, in the next 1 to 2 weeks, sort of thing, or probably in the next week, those letters will go off. The reality would probably be it is unlikely that the government will take any action, but nonetheless, I think it's appropriate that our council tables its objection and to this, and that it should be phased in. There are obviously going to be some councils that in a broader ratepayer sense, get a little bit of a free kick in a year and in an environment where rating increase pressure is going to be, you know, quite high, or high to keep them low, and we're not going to be one of the councils that will benefit from that. So.
Thanks, Richard, but I've got a feeling Michael's question might have been a little bit different to that in terms of how long will it be before that 56.5 increase affects our ratepayers. It seems like it's going to be immediately.
Absolutely.
Councillor Collin?
Yeah, I've just got a question. So the other night we had Nigel making a presentation. He was saying that the increase for us as a rateable prime producer was only 8-point-something%, or not, just under 9. So why? So 56.5. How does that align with what he was saying?
Yeah, through the chair, Nigel's presentation was exclusive of other government charges. So this is not included in our rating, and in all the reports that would be done, we don't include the NRM levy in our overall rating increase. So yeah, sorry, Joe.
I was gonna say, yeah, the rate, the increase that Nigel was presented is the general rate revenue increase. Then we have charges that are also passed on to the ratepayers, such as the bin charge is a separate charge on the rates notice. Your CWMS charge, if you have that facilities on the rates notice, as is the NRM levy or the landscape levy, and that's a separate rate outside of council's control. It's raised, we raise it on behalf of the state government, so it's completely different from general rates.
I realise that.
Yeah,
I do realise that. I know how the rating system works. What I'm getting at is when he said how much it would be, I'm sure he had a graph up there saying that he would, or the council would only be 8-something. So I'm a bit surprised to see it is that much. But my memory might be failing me, but I can't find where it said that.
I think we're objecting to obviously the increase, but more so objecting to it being in 1 year rather than being phased in over a period of time. I think the recommendation sort of.
I also don't think 5 years is long enough. I think it should be phased in over a longer period. But and also when you're asking to change the for Revenue SA, so you're saying that when they do the say emergency service levy, it'll be included in that.
Yeah.
So the reason this was done is because originally this levy was council responsibility. They took it away. So a lot of the things were, and then so now it's basically just becoming a revenue stream, and it's just a total tax take because the responsibility's gone from council to this board, and now they're just taking more money. So I think we need to be stronger than that if we can, but I'm not sure how we can do that.
I think we've got Local Government Association on side too, and I think they're doing some work in this area as well. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of response they get to their ongoing sort of questions and presentations. But there's a recommendation there. Are there any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, would someone like to move that recommendation?
I'll move that. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Dean, and second, Councillor Peter. No further questions or any comments. I'll put the recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I actually support Colin heavily, and this is a state rip-off, and and the stronger we can support LGA in making the point that they're just using us. I mean, previously, years ago, we'd have our own weeds man. It wouldn't cost us $500,000 a year just to run around a year, would he? You could. So, and for what we get from, it's just a waste. It's a waste of our ratepayers' money. It comes back on us.
That's right.
It should be pushed in LGA big time.
That's why I don't think the wording of this is strong enough. I think we should be. I I'm not sure how you do it, but I think we should be pushing back harder than that.
Further dot point and say that council support the local government association in their attempt to rectify this matter. So that we would, because they're going to have far more clout than we will as one single council. But we can make it quite clear that we're supporting the LGA's position in this.
Mr. Mayor, we've got requesting. Can we say strongly request or in? I mean, it's going to make no difference, but we should be saying
But
something.
they need to know how we.
Yeah, I think it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
I don't think the equalisation thing's right. The whole thing's wrong. So the way they've done the equation with equalisation is wrong. So the whole, just saying the proposed levy increase you're not happy with, the whole thing's wrong. So just say we disagree with the whole thing. Not, that's just playing Mr. Nice Guy, if you ask me.
I don't know what the local government association's position is on that particular matter, but I tend to agree. I would like to think that they're thinking the same way. We probably need to find out, and if we, Councillor Fabian?
Through the chair, is this a compulsory action that we have to subscribe to, or do we have the option to basically take it back in-house? That's what I'm asking. I've got my answer.
Good try, Councillor Fabian. Councillor Dean.
As move the motion, I'm quite happy to see 2C be stronger than request, to make that strongly request. For example, that would, because really I think that what gets up my nose, and I think most people's, is that we're basically doing their dirty work for them.
That's right.
And don't see a lot of benefit for it, and get all the flack. I mean, it's on our council rate notice, so the fact that we get nothing out of it, in terms of all we do is pass it on to the government, the average person isn't really going to notice that as much as the fact that it's on his rate notice, and so we bear the flag. They get very little benefit. So I totally agree that it is an unfair system, but if it became them collecting it, then that's their total responsibility, it's not ours. And so I think, we really, I suppose, have very little power to tell the state government what taxes they should collect, but we can tell them we don't want to collect them for them.
Councillor Dean, could we perhaps include at the end of that, and council strongly support the local government association's position on this matter as part of that?
With that through this, I think we just say strongly requesting the state really what we're saying is we think that.
Okay, yep, that's fine.
And I also think, I don't think we should have B, requesting equalisation. I don't agree with equalisation. So don't put it in. Don't put it in. So just say voicing a strong objection, and we don't agree with it at all. So what I'm reading here, that's what the regional landscape levy, board levy income increased by 8.4 in brackets. So but it doesn't actually say where the area was. So some areas are getting affected a lot more than others. So, but
I think
that's
it
what I was
only had
quoting
to do with Northern and York's their budgeting process. That's what it had to do with. I think that's set in concrete that that's going to happen. I don't think we can do anything about that.
No.
Well, the minister's already passed it, hasn't he?
That's set in concrete. It was only the fact that they're fiddling around the edges, saying that some councils were benefiting more than other councils, and they're just doing this equalisation bit. That's my understanding. Could be wrong.
Through the chair, the equalisation is identical to the way we set our rates, and that is that someone in Hewitt will pay the same rate in the dollar as what someone in Kapunda will. So all the NRM board is doing is equalising that across its region. And as such, our council is paying more because the value of our properties is more. So that's the simplistic side of things. So in the phase-in year, we don't do very well because of some of our northern councils, which just don't have those valuations that we do.
They pay less.
So they are paying less, and that's why I said they, in my view, I think they're getting a bit of a free kick. So, but the equalisation is adopted. I think what we can object to is the phase-in or the implementation of it, and that's, in my view, I think where we could do something. In terms of the recommendation here, I'm quite comfortable with that. However, I can strengthen it up in the actual letter itself that gets written rather than in a recommendation, which not diminishing the value of it, but at the end of the day, it will be the letter that they receive where we talk about it. And I think I've noted the comments here in the room that the way in which that letter needs to be worded.
Thank you, Richard. Any further
Maybe
questions,
just
councillor?
clarification, I've suggested adding words strongly, but a second, happy with that? Yes. So I think we've probably had enough
Okay.
discussion. Can we put it?
Oh, thank you, councillor Dean. I'll take your word for that. Are there any further questions or comments? If not, put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors, and thanks, Richard. And I think we've got the message that it's a very strong letter to the department. Excuse me a second, councillors. I'm new system tonight again, or not again, but the new system I'm trying to get my head around. We've done that. We move on to the bylaws review, amending bylaw. I had great difficulty in reading this and understanding exactly what it meant. It's certainly, a fairly lengthy legal document, I think, we're dealing with here, and I'm not quite sure how to handle this. Are there any questions in relation to this matter to start with?
Mayor Bill, perhaps Craig could give us a
Just a little bit of a
three
safety.
sentence summary. Oh, I think it's,
3 sentences.
yeah, well, approximately somewhere between 1 and 5.
It's a pretty complex matter.
Through the chair, spot on, councillor Dean. So we've amended our bylaws and adopted new bylaws. The Legislative Review Committee would like us to add some wording that allows for two things. Rather than have he or she references, to make them gender neutral. Secondly, also to also reinforce the need for authorising officers to act reasonably. So that affects a small number of the bylaws in key areas, but the way forward, the easiest way forward is to have a separate bylaw just featuring those corrections specifically. So that's what's been drafted and put before you for consideration tonight. And I've gone over 3 sentences, so I apologise.
Right. I don't know. We've not discussed this as a council with this he or she references and so forth. And quite frankly, I find it quite extraordinary that we spend time talking about that sort of matter, changing the English language and all of that. What if we didn't do it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair. Look, my understanding is that the Legislative Review Committee has been consistent with all councils doing their bylaw reviews at this point. A number of councils have fallen due at the same time, and they've all received similar advice back. The risk we run if we don't accede to their suggestions, recommendations, is that they can move to disallow our bylaws.
If we don't follow the reference to those terms,
Yeah, that's correct.
that's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
That's my understanding of the position. So it's well in our interest to take this.
Let's just read. Mayor Bill, this reinforces our understanding we are the creatures of the state government, and what they tell us to do, we must do. And whilst I personally, I think that's a pretty brainless thing to do, I nonetheless think that we haven't got a choice. And we wasting our time now discussing it.
Just as a position of our council, in hypothetically, who believes these he and she references should be adopted around the table? Excuse me? Yeah, removed.
Well, Mr. Mayor, oh, sorry, Mayor Bill, I'm not allowed to say Mr. Emley. Can I just move the recommendation, Mayor Bill? Just keep going. I mean, Craig gave us 250 pages of bloody agenda to read.
Yeah,
So I think let's move the agenda, the recommendation.
I tend to agree. There's a recommendation somewhere there. Yeah, it is. It's a full page on page 7. Would someone like to? Second. Councillor Michael and Councillor Bill, is that correct? Any further questions or discussions, councillors? For another day, maybe. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. I think we've got the job ahead of us with the he's and she's and the what fors and neverthelesses and everything else. I think the world's gone mad. That's only my opinion. Right. We turn now to our questions on notice. I think I'm up to date. The questions on notice, the remuneration of the arrangements for the Alana Group, the responses there, and that's covered fairly well. Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the question on notes?
Certainly.
So I've had a little bit of email correspondence with Richard about this, but I'm just having a bit of a problem with the way because I know Kyron told me last year that we spent about 50 odd thousand between June and Christmas, and then there's another 40 odd thousand in the new what do you call them, the new pay order. So the last pay order that was complete was done the financial year before, but the invoices were honoured in this financial year. So I asked Nigel before, so if the money goes from one, if the operation order is not fulfilled, the money is then carried over in the budget into the following financial year. So then when the invoice is honoured, the money is paid out of the year that the invoice is paid. So if you've got someone asking any retainer and the amount spent this financial year and any planned expenditure and provide any update. So the question actually was, what money was spent this financial year? So even though the price order was the year before, the payment was this year. So that means that should be included in this 42. So the 42,000 is the new scope. The last scope was fully honoured in I think you said September or October. So that should be included in this answer, because actually otherwise you've been misleading, in my opinion, and also an accountant's opinion.
Well, I'll have to pass to you, Richard, to follow that. I'm not on top of this matter at all.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, I think the email traffic has hopefully clarified where it's at in terms of the exact dollars for last financial year and the work that was done. You're wanting that information included as well?
I'm not asking for it. It was asked for in this question on notice. It's asking what money's been spent this financial year. So what you're saying is because you've got a purchase order, but the money has been paid this financial year. So in accounting terms, I rang my personal accountant. He told me that's not how you do it. It's the year you paid. I just saw Nigel out there, and he said exactly the same thing. So I haven't asked for that. It's been asked for that here, and it hasn't been supplied. So to me, this is misleading, and I don't think it's quite, I don't think for us to be a good council, I don't think it's the way it should be done. A purchase order is not money spent. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Or do you understand that? Yep. So I haven't asked that in my emails. It's been asked for here. So you've answered the question I can't come up with a word at the moment, but it's not totally transparent when what I'm sure that's what I'm sure that's what Michael was asking. That's right. That's how I read the question.
Thanks, Richard and Councillor Collins. So look, certainly the question, without going into all the reasons for the question, I suppose, the question was how much has been spent this financial year with Alinea Group, and I do agree with Councillor Collins that, you know, we are sort of in nuance space here, but certainly in my experience, if the cost was incurred this financial year, then it should be, it should have been included in that report. So I do think that the figure in item 2 is probably understated by reason of that. The other part of the question was in relation to provisions for future expenditure with Alinea Group. And if you want to maybe scroll down, I believe that has been answered, that there's no further provisions in the budget to come or in the forward budgets for further. So effectively what we're saying is the 42,000, the upper limit of the 42,000, whatever ends up being, boxes off the current any contemplated engagement with the Alinea Group in relation to Drovers and Counter. Is that what we're saying?
Councillor Dean?
As a follow-up question, given it folds on to what both Councillor Michael and Colin said, given that the $42,000 we haven't received an invoice in it yet, and we're just about the end of the financial year, the chances are that will be paid in the following one. Would that be a fair assumption for some of it?
Through the chair, I'd expect that invoice very shortly, particularly given the attachment to this question on notice, and also the fact that I've flagged the report to May or June council meeting of a more substantial nature. So I would expect that invoice to be close. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, the cost will be incurred, either accrued or incurred by reason of an invoice this financial year, presumably. So I think that does answer the question, but I do think the record should be corrected at item 2 to reflect the full value of the cost incurred with Alinea Group for this financial year.
Through the chair, I'd just like to clarify there was no ill intent in not reporting on the 2022-21 figure. So last week I attempted to respond to the question on notice as I understood, in the absence of the Economic Development General Manager. And that's what you see before you. So if you would like some further clarification around the 2021-22 figure, more than happy to provide that.
I think we should.
But I can assure you it was not.
No, I'm not having a go at anyone or your intent. What I'm trying to say is that when questions like this are asked, the money spent in that financial year should be written when a question is asked like that. So you can't just say it's a price or a purchase order from a year before, so we're not going to say what it is. The money was honoured in an invoice this year, this financial year. So this is for the future, and so we all know when a question like that is asked, how I expect it to be answered is that way, because a purchase order or a budget, what's in a budget from a previous budget and carried forward, ends up in that financial year. So that's when it should be counted. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you've done something wrong. I'm just saying I believe that's what we should be doing as a business or a council.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Collin. I think we've probably got to the stage now that we understand what's required. And to overcome the fact that it's not currently there, will this particular response be amended to include that?
Through the chair, given that I've flagged future presentation to council in any case on this matter.
Yep.
Can I suggest that maybe that matter be resolved at the same time, that full acquittal for the 2 financial years is clarified, if there's a need for a further clarification?
Councillor Collin, are you satisfied with that? I think your point's been well taken.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'd prefer if someone was to email me those, or to all the councillors, those figures tomorrow, just so we know. Because I have been asking,
Yep.
and I know Michael has been as well. Like it's been quite a. I know Dean doesn't agree with us asking questions, but if the question was answered straight away, there wouldn't have been an email chain a mile long. And
I think we should leave Councillor Dean out of it.
no, I'm just saying because
That was a misrepresentation, Mayor Bill, that I'll let it pass.
no,
Well, I think
the
we've got-
point I'm making is
We've got a resolution now on the table now, though, that could overcome all this if both Councillor Michael and yourself agree to that, where that report will include all that information you're looking for in the timeframes.
Through the chair, I'm happy to have a chat to our finance manager, reflecting on your earlier conversation, Councillor Collin, and send you an updated figures.
Okay.
Very much quicker than that, if you would prefer.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
But you'll be reporting anyway to. Yeah, fine. You happy with that, Councillor Michael?
I am. Thanks, Mayor Bill. Yep.
Could you make sure that Councillor Michael gets that too? Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for that, and thanks, Colin. I mean, hopefully you made your point quite clearly and quite well. So thank you. Questions without notice? Motions on notice we don't have, and motions without notice we don't have. Well, Council, we now move into our confidential section of our meeting.